Okay.
Doug Foster from Medill. I wanted to ask you a little bit about diversity, not just what we're doing to recruit, but what happens after students get here.
That's all right.
And so you said we're at the 20-yard line.
Yes.
I want to hear what steps you envision, particularly on that latter point, what happens to students once they get here, to get to 30.
Well, I'll tell you, Doug, one thing, if you're talking specifically about undergraduates or even graduate students, you know, the first thing, again, is to have a diverse population. It's much more diverse than it was 4 years ago by any measure. That's the good news. The bad news is that are we really more inclusive, and how do you measure inclusiveness? You know, I mentioned Patricia before. We've made some, I think, very good changes in how we do orientation, you know, for our new students. You only have them once because after a couple of weeks they're on their own, and, you know, it's hard to teach them. But I think the efforts that a number of us have made, I mentioned Leslie and Brown, I got Bergie back there. A number of people have really been at the forefront of the educational process. The way we train the community associates and, you know, the peer advisors is very different than what we did before. In fact, some of those groups didn't even exist 4 years ago. The diversity awareness inclusion training we do is very, very different. We've reached out to change how we do staff orientation, how we do faculty orientation. We've invested heavily in, as I mentioned, Dwight McBride is probably the national leader in terms of graduate student education. It's not just bringing in diverse groups, but making sure that they feel fully invested in Northwestern once they get here. The teaching we do, I happen to, you know, there are a whole bunch of things that are percolating now, including diversity inclusion requirements in education. I have my own view, but there's also the, you know, you're a faculty member. You know, I don't tell Medill whether they should have a diversity requirement, although I have my own strong opinions about it. So, you know, some of these things are hard to measure, but if you want to hear more, there are different ways to measure it. One of the things we do is, as part of COFI, the 31 highly selective privates, we carefully look at the senior survey, and we look at, you know, we ask all our students, whatever their background, how do they feel about the climate of diversity and inclusion on campus, and we look, is it improving? If it's improving, for which groups does it improve? We look at, would you do it again to come here with your 4-year undergraduate education? And, you know, would you recommend to your younger brother or sister to do the same? And we look and we see how that breaks down by Asian Americans, Caucasians, African Americans, Latinos, international students, low-income students. We parse those data every way we can, and we look and see if it's truth, as it has been in this campus and other campuses, that African Americans, particularly African American men, have a somewhat different experience here than every other group, much inferior decision or feeling. We then look and say, is it advising? Is it the campus climate? Is it their unhappiness about access to faculty? Are they disproportionately in CESP, or are they disproportionately in McCormick? We break it down every way. I'm, as you know, Doug, a data junkie here, so we look at those data, and if those numbers don't continue to improve, then we have to take a different course, maybe with a different president, to be honest with you. That's how important it is.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you, Morty.